All right, welcome back. I'm Austin Westfall. Take a look at this. This week, Texas A&M fired a professor and 2 other faculty members after a social media video showed a back and forth between a student and a professor over whether she should be teaching that there are more than 2 genders. Here's a clip of what we're talking about.
I just have a question because I'm not entirely sure this is legal to be teaching. Because according to our president, there's only 2 genders, and he said that he would be freezing agencies' funding programs that promote gender ideology.
You are under misconception.
Your gender is not illegal. According to President Trump's executive order, if you want me to read the paragraph in the order itself.
You do not need that. If you are uncomfortable in this class, you do not go into.
Okay, so that's the clip, and this is the tweet that we were just showing you. Here's why we were showing it to you. Texas State Representative Brian Harrison posted that video. Standing by right now is Laura Spitalniak. She's an editor at Higher Ed Dive. She's covered issues relating to free speech on campuses across the country. Laura, what?
Yeah, so before we listen to her opinion, I'm going to give my opinion. So I don't think that, honestly, I'm not sure if the teacher was promoting it. Now, the issue I do have, and I think an issue that the school has also, is that it is a children's literature course, right? Now, it doesn't mean it's a class with children in it. It's an English course called Children's Literature, right? And I'm actually going to show you this because if you go on their website and you look at it, they have the there we go, Literature for Children, right? Representative writers, genres, texts, and movements, right? And then you scroll down here and they have a separate English class that speaks about lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer authorship. Right. So I understand where she's coming from as far as, why are you teaching this, in this classroom? I think the way that she went about it and the way that she explained it, it holds some truth, but I think it was a bad, way to go about it. Now, I'm not sure. I don't go to that class, but as you hear later on in the video we're about to watch, they explain that the description doesn't match what the actual course material is that the teacher was teaching, right? And you can see how very vague it is. And I'll show you again, actually. You'll see how vague it is, but I want you to see how the other ones aren't that descriptive, but they have some type of description in there that, so you understand the type of course you're going to be taking, right? Young adult literature, survey of historical contemporary literature for adolescents, including such forms as fantasy, domestic fiction, and problem novel, or in the problem novel, right? You see this one, Latina literature, Latina literature, right? It goes into detail. Even this one, right? Exploring of LGBTQ plus authorship through film and literacy criticism and theories of performing the self in an act of authoring. Okay, so you see, most of these descriptions, they're not going into full detail about the course, but it gives you a general idea of what the course is going to be about, right? Now, if I am a student and I'm picking my classes, for the next term or the upcoming semester, right? I'm going to be looking at these, and if I see, literature for children, right? And then I go down and I see lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer authorship. To me, those are two completely different classes, right? From my understanding, when I read literature for children, we're talking about children's books, right? Green Eggs and Ham, I'm talking let me see, my daughter, she read children's books, things like that, I'm not thinking of, I'm actually going to I'm thinking of children's books, The Gingerbread Man, literature for children, right? And that's where my issue comes into play too, is because, to be completely honest, I don't care where you are, what state you're in, what you believe. I don't think any children should be reading about, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, LGBTQ plus, any of that, gender ideology stuff. No children should be, right? They need to be reading about the gingerbread man, green eggs and ham, like that's what they need to be reading. I mean, if you want to add more religious books like I do, we have books of Noah. You can add that to you from your personal collection, But I mean, this right here, I think that this right here just shows, like, they purposely left out things, that would steer students away from that class. And that's it, and I think that they should be fired for that. Because you knowingly gave a description that wasn't a full detail, not even a full detail, but it wasn't a description that represented your class well. Especially if you're an English class teaching literature for children. I would want to go to that class. You feel me? I wouldn't want to go to that class and hear about, there being more than two genders and teaching that to children. No. So I see that. And I think that's one of the big problems now that they have in colleges, right? It's y'all are paying for these courses, you feel me? And if I'm going to be paying for a class, if I'm going to be paying for a course, I want to know, I want to learn what I paid for. I want to gain knowledge in a course that I'm spending all this money to take.
What was the core issue of this video, and why is it getting so much attention?
Hi, thank you for having me. The challenged content of this video in Texas A&M's view has been that the content of that course did not match the description for students when they first signed up. But of course, the primary thing that has gotten the attention of the internet and politicians in particular is that this teacher is discussing that there are more than two genders, something that runs antithetical to President Trump's executive order signed in January. Now, that executive order isn't a law, so to this point, there hasn't been an argument made by the university that that instruction by that professor is illegal. However, Governor Greg Abbott has said that her actions run contrary to state law. Texas, as of 2023, has a pretty far-reaching ban on diversity, equity, inclusion efforts at publicly funded colleges, but that law very specifically does not apply to instruction in the classroom. So there will be an ongoing debate about whether or not Texas, at the state level, and if the federal government will seek to allow this kind of instruction to continue.
Yeah, so you see, right, the professor obviously tried to be deceptive when it came to getting ready for her course and her course material. It's obvious. Now, one of the things that I am going to have to side on some people on the left with is the fact that this is a university, right? People should be, in the universities, you're going to have topics that are controversial, right? You're going to have topics that you may not agree with, right? And I don't want there to start being repercussions or actions taken, to have students kicked out of class or teachers fired just because of the things that they talk about in their courses. Now, I'm going to go back and repeat this, though, because this teacher, the professor in this classroom, just blatantly like I showed you the description, right? There is nothing in this about, gender ideology or multiple genders or anything of that nature, right? It's a children's literature course. So I don't agree with that. However, I do think that colleges where you're supposed to and this is what one of the things Charlie Kirk pushed, because he believed, for a lot, college is a scam, right? You're taking courses you don't need, you're being indoctrinated, institutional, whatever, like college is where minds come together and you're supposed to debate things, right? You're supposed to have dialogue, talk about things, debate them, like give your sides, try to get some type of understanding, and come out with some type of conclusion, whether it's the same, whether you left learning a little bit more, whether you didn't, like there still needs to be some type of, debate on certain topics. Now, if this was a different classroom, for example, the LGBTQ course that I just showed you, and she had she had an issue, then I think that would be a cause for debate, right? Okay, you have a problem with what we're teaching in this course. You've seen the name of the course when you came here. All right, so let's debate. Let's talk about this, right? Let's have an open dialogue, right? And we conversate with one another, right? Like we're supposed to do. Okay, and my thing is I don't want this thing to get out of hand to where there are people on the right starting to act like people on the left. Like, yeah, I believe in God. Okay, yeah, I believe in Jesus Christ as our Savior, right? So, but when I go to a college campus, right, my mind is open. My mind is open, right? I still have my beliefs, right? That doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going against those beliefs, right? By asking questions, by debating certain things, right? If anything, those debates will allow me to get out my perspective and why I believe the way I believe, right? So that is one thing, because I do believe that on a college campus, yes, those are where debates are, right? Universities, the mind, one mind, I believe. Like that's where you go to have these type of conversations. And I would hate to see colleges get to the point where they're like, okay, well, you can't talk about this, or you can't say anything that goes against a certain religion, because then it just everything just falls apart, right? We still need to be able to find a medium to where people can express themselves, talk, without having to feel like there's going to be repercussions if they say the wrong thing, right? Now, again, this teacher, blatantly wrong, right? I don't think the teacher should have been doing this. I don't think the teacher. I think the teacher should have gave a better description of the course. So students going there know what they're going into, right? Now, I'm sure this student probably thought she was going to a children's literature course, and she heard what the teacher was talking about, and everyone knows how we feel about children and this gender ideology stuff, right? It should be in the same thing. So obviously, it must have struck a nerve with her. Right? She's like, I am in a children's literacy course, and we're talking about gender ideology. They're being more like, no, this isn't what I paid to, to come and see. This isn't what I wanted to do. Right? So what the student did was she got herself together. She spoke with the dean or the president, whoever it was, that she spoke with. She spoke to them. They had a guy even come in to monitor the class, right? And then she took a step further and she recorded it, and said, and made the comment about, what the president, said. And like I said, she may have been a little off about that because it's not a law, I believe. It was an executive order to stop funding, However, it's not a law, right? So, I mean, schools can do it, but there will be repercussions, right? I mean, there may be repercussions. There may be something, that happened, like their funding being stopped, right? So, but, I just don't want to see the right starting to censor or, stop certain conversations from happening. Because then if we do that, then we're on the wrong side of things. All right. That's all I got for that. Make sure you love someone. Make sure you hug someone. Peace.